What if everything you think you know about right and wrong, about making good decisions, about human nature itself is built on a foundation that nobody has properly examined? What if, buried beneath thousands of years of philosophy, religion, and culture, there's a simple cognitive pattern that explains not just how we should behave, but how we actually think, how languages work, and maybe even how the universe operates? And what if the same framework that philosophers used 2,500 years ago to understand human virtue could be the missing piece in creating truly ethical AI systems? For over 2,000 years, humanity has carried forward four words: wisdom, justice, temperance, courage. Every major civilization has recognized them. Aristotle wrote about them. Religious traditions embraced them. Philosophers have debated them endlessly. But here's what nobody talks about. Why these four? Why not 3 or 5 or 10? What makes this combination so universal that it appears across cultures that never had contact with each other?
The answer lies buried in a gap that modern philosophy has never properly addressed. Virtue ethics re-emerged in the mid-20th century, particularly after Elizabeth Anscombe's critique of modern moral philosophy, but it remained fragmented. Meanwhile, cognitive science has matured into an interdisciplinary field blending psychology, neuroscience, and decision theory. The methods needed to ground ethics in human reason have been sitting right there, waiting for someone to connect the dots. What I discovered changes everything we thought we knew about human nature, language, decision-making, and maybe even reality itself. Because when you strip away thousands of years of tradition and look at these virtues with fresh eyes, they reveal something extraordinary. They're not moral guidelines at all. They're cognitive abilities. I know this sounds like a lot to take in, but stick with me, because what I'm about to show you connects philosophy, cognitive science, complexity theory, linguistics, and even quantum physics into one unified framework that could fundamentally change how we understand human nature.
Let me start with a simple question that began this entire journey. What does it really mean to be a good person? Think about it for a moment. Religion gives us rules, culture gives us traditions, but neither really explains why certain virtues matter or how they actually work in our minds. For thousands of years, philosophers have said we should be wise, just, temperate, and courageous, but they never explained why these four specifically, or how they connect to the way we actually think and make decisions. Then I discovered something called the theory of virtue, and everything clicked into place. This framework suggests that wisdom, justice, temperance, and courage aren't moral categories at all. They're cognitive abilities, mental skills that operate across different timeframes. So, instead of treating these as abstract moral concepts, it reveals them as four distinct cognitive functions operating across different time. But first, I need to destroy an assumption that's probably hardwired into how you think about choice. Let me start with a simple question. When you make a decision, any decision, what's actually happening in your brain? Most people would say you're weighing options, considering consequences, maybe following your gut. But what if there's a deeper structure to how your mind works? What if every good decision you've ever made follows the same hidden pattern? You've heard people say we see the world in black and white, right? Binary thinking, good versus bad, yes or no. Except that's not how choice actually works. That's not how your mind processes options when you're deciding what to do. Think about a baby. Brand new, no experience, no concepts about what's good or bad, just pure openness to whatever happens. Pure awareness encountering raw experience. This is a state of perfect neutrality where nothing is labeled as positive or negative. But intelligence quickly kicks in. The baby starts noticing patterns, forming expectations, wanting things. That peaceful neutrality transforms into confusion as we encounter situations we can't categorize. Then, experience. Some things cause pleasure, others cause pain. You start developing preferences. Some things become positive, helpful, something we approach. Others become negative, harmful, something we avoid. So instead of just binary choice, you actually have four fundamental states: neutral, confused, positive, negative. And this pattern shows up everywhere once you know to look for it. Take language. We don't just have words for like and dislike. We have complete semantic families: not liking, loving, disliking, liking, not happening, planning, misshapping, happening, muting, joking, misspeaking, speaking. Every language on Earth organizes meaning this way,
because it reflects something fundamental about consciousness itself. Decision-making follows these patterns. Even personality types map onto this framework. This is where the first cognitive ability comes in, wisdom. In this framework, wisdom isn't about having read a lot of books or accumulated life experience. Think about wisdom as the capacity to navigate these four states cleanly in the present moment, without being clouded by past conditioning or future projections. But real wisdom is actually about unlearning. It's about stripping away the assumptions, biases, and inherited beliefs that cloud your perception of what's actually happening right now.
Think about how children approach the world with fresh eyes, asking questions adults have stopped asking, seeing possibilities adults have ruled out. That's wisdom in action. It's the Socratic recognition that knowing you don't know is more valuable than pretending you do. Not because ignorance is bliss, but because mental clarity requires letting go of the stuff that prevents you from seeing clearly. Wisdom is the capacity to think clearly in the present, without the baggage of inherited beliefs. It's thinking that's free from the gravitational pull of everything you've been taught to believe. But here's the paradox. As we grow up, we lose this clarity. Experience becomes memory. Memory becomes opinion. Opinion hardens into culture. We start seeing the world through layers of assumption and judgment. The child who once marveled at a simple leaf now steps over it without noticing. So wisdom alone creates problems. You can think clearly in the moment, but if you don't learn from experience, you'll keep making the same mistakes. That's where justice enters the picture, but not justice as punishment and reward. Justice in this framework is pattern recognition applied to ethics. It's the ability to extract reliable insights from past experience and apply them to current decisions. Instead of just remembering what happened, justice involves systematically evaluating your experiences to understand what actually works. This gets complicated because memory isn't neutral. Your brain doesn't record experiences like a camera. It edits them, interprets them, connects them to emotions and expectations. You tend to remember things that confirm what you already believe and forget things that challenge your assumptions. Trauma makes this even worse. Painful experiences embed themselves so deeply that they distort how you interpret completely unrelated situations. Someone who's been betrayed might see threats everywhere. Someone who's been abandoned might interpret kindness as manipulation. The theory addresses this through something called situational logic, a framework for mapping different types of situations against different types of responses. Sometimes a good decision in a bad context looks like failure. Sometimes a terrible decision gets rewarded by luck and looks like success. So basically, justice is the cognitive ability to see through these distortions, to separate signal from noise in your experience, to update your beliefs based on actual evidence rather than emotional charge. This aligns with Daniel Kahneman's research distinguishing fast, automatic thinking from slow, deliberate reflection. Justice is the ethical capacity to engage deliberate thinking, interrupting the rapid patterns of bias, fear, and assumption that often govern our responses. But even with clear present moment thinking and reliable learning from the past, you still need to deal with the future. And this is where temperance becomes something radically different from self-denial. Temperance is the capacity to model potential futures and adjust your behavior to maintain long-term harmony. It's not about suppressing desire, it's about directing it intelligently. Think of a chef who can taste something and know exactly what it needs. Or a musician you can hear where a song wants to go before it gets there. That's temperance. The ability to anticipate consequences and calibrate your actions accordingly. It's strategic foresight that projects beyond immediate impulse to consider how your choices will ripple outward across time. This connects to anticipatory systems theory from cybernetics. Intelligent behavior requires internal models of possible futures that inform present action. Temperance builds those models and uses them to guide decision-making. But of course, anticipation has a dark side. It can become pathological. When it becomes dysregulated, you get anxiety disorders, PTSD, obsessive planning that never leads to action, minds trapped in overstimulation. It's like having a forecast system that can't turn off, constantly generating predictions about threats that may never materialize. That's why healthy temperance distinguishes between useful anticipation and destructive worry. It prepares you for likely scenarios without trapping you in imaginary futures. It's the virtue that teaches you when to act, when to wait, and when to completely reframe your approach. This process involves what cognitive scientists call conceptual blending. How humans unconsciously combine elements from multiple mental frameworks to construct imagined futures. Our sense of what might happen depends on which memories we integrate, which fears we amplify, which values we prioritize. Temperance governs this projection ethically.
It ensures you don't become a victim of your own predictions while still learning from them. Now we get to the fourth virtue, and this is where individual cognition scales to collective behavior in ways that could reshape how we understand cultural evolution. Courage isn't just personal bravery, it's the capacity to navigate what the theory calls swarmetic systems, complex adaptive systems where groups of people learn, adapt, and evolve together through constant feedback. Languages are swarmetic systems, so are cultures, scientific communities, religious traditions, even internet subcultures. These systems generate innovations, test them against reality, keep what works, and discard what doesn't. But they don't do this consciously. It emerges from the collective behavior of individual participants. Courage is the virtue that allows you to participate in these systems effectively, to absorb useful innovations, reject outdated patterns, and contribute to collective learning. It involves recognizing which cultural developments to embrace, which to resist, and when to generate new alternatives. It's about recognizing which cultural memes deserve to spread and which deserve to die. This connects to memetics. That's the study of how ideas evolve and compete like biological organisms. But unlike random mutation, cultural evolution can be consciously guided. Courage is the capacity to participate in this guidance ethically. Modern leadership isn't about command and control. It's about enabling systems to self-organize toward better outcomes. Courage plays this role at every scale, from personal decisions to cultural transformation. When these four virtues operate together, they form what the theory describes as a recursive feedback loop. Wisdom generates insight from present circumstances. Justice extracts meaning from past experience. Temperance models potential futures. Courage adapts through continuous change. The results of courageous action then inform new memories for justice, which update present understanding for wisdom, which recalibrate future scenarios for temperance. It's a closed-loop system of ethical cognition that connects to everything we know about decision theory, cognitive science, and complex systems behavior. Alright, here's where things get really fascinating when it comes to artificial intelligence. Most of today's AI systems actually lean heavily on just one type of cognitive skill, something this theory calls justice. Basically, these AIs are like supercharged pattern spotters. They're trained on huge amounts of data to recognize patterns and make predictions based on what they've seen before. That's their main trick. No deep thinking, no creativity, just incredibly fast, incredibly detailed matching. But they're missing the other three abilities. They can't suspend their training to see situations fresh. They lack wisdom. They can't model long-term consequences or adjust their behavior to maintain harmony over time, so they lack temperance. And they certainly can't navigate complex social systems or adapt to cultural evolution. That means they lack courage. And this is exactly why aligning AI with human values is so hard. It's not just about writing the right code or programming a set of moral rules. The real challenge is deeper. We need to build systems that can think across different time horizons, juggle conflicting priorities, and adapt to new situations without losing their ethical compass. That's where the theory of virtue comes in. According to this framework, true intelligence, human or artificial, requires 4 core cognitive abilities working together in balance. This isn't just a nice theory on paper. AI researchers are already starting to explore hybrid models that combine things like long-term memory, prediction, symbolic reasoning, and value-based decision-making. We're slowly moving from narrow, pattern-matching machines to something more, human. But the implications go far beyond artificial intelligence, honestly. This framework doesn't just help us build smarter machines. It also gives us a new lens for understanding ourselves. It can reshape how we think about education, mental health, leadership, even how cultures grow and collapse. Think about that for a second. The theory suggests that when a culture fails, it's not because people suddenly become immoral in some vague sense. It's usually because there's an imbalance in how they use these cognitive abilities. A society that clings too tightly to tradition, memory, might become rigid and unable to adapt. One that constantly chases innovation, foresight, might lose touch with deeper wisdom and shared meaning. This links to something linguists call the wave model of innovation. The idea that cultural change doesn't spread evenly, but moves in overlapping waves, often led by small groups of early adopters. The theory of virtue builds on this. It's the people with strong courage, the ability to take smart risks and navigate uncertainty, who read these waves best and help steer the culture forward. See, there's a kind of mathematical beauty to it all. The way these abilities interact
echoes patterns we see in fractal geometry and chaos theory. Just like simple rules can create stunning, complex fractals, the theory suggests that complex ethical behavior might grow from a few basic mental skills, used wisely and in balance. It's a bit like what Benoit Mandelbrot showed with his fractals, that underneath infinite complexity, there's often an elegant, recursive structure. The theory of virtue hints that morality might work the same way, not as a list of do's and don'ts, but as a self-similar pattern of thinking, repeating at every level, from individuals to entire cultures. And that's what makes this theory so powerful. It doesn't tell you what to think, it teaches you how to think. Unlike traditional ethical systems that hand you a checklist of values or goals, this one focuses on process. It says, if you can develop and balance these 4 core abilities across time and situations, you'll naturally move toward wiser, more ethical decisions, which makes it perfect for the world we're living in. A world of rapid change, big unknowns, and complex trade-offs. We need ethical systems that are flexible enough to evolve, but strong enough to stay grounded. And that's exactly what this offers. The beauty of the theory of virtue is that it's not tied to any single culture or era. It's based on the structure of human decision-making itself. Whether you're designing AI, running a company, raising a family, or just trying to be a better person, the same principles apply. And this takes us back to where it all began. When the ancient Greeks talked about wisdom, justice, temperance, and courage, they weren't just being poetic. They were pointing to something real, something fundamental about how our minds work when we're at our best. Ideas so universal they show up in stories, religions, and philosophies all around the world. The theory of virtue suggests they were onto something big, not just moral ideals, but actual cognitive skills we can understand, develop, and even build into machines. Skills that explain why some people make better decisions, why some communities thrive, and why others struggle.
And if this theory holds up, we're at a historic turning point. For the first time, we have the tools to measure these abilities in the brain, to track how they evolve, and to train them more effectively. We can apply this knowledge to improve everything from education to technology to public policy. Maybe we've been asking the wrong question all along. Instead of arguing endlessly about what values we should have, maybe we should be asking, how can we think better about the values we choose? The Greeks believed that the good life was rooted in virtue. The theory of virtue says they were right, but for reasons they never could have imagined. It's not about chasing external goals or blindly following rules. It's about learning to think clearly across time, holding on to past wisdom, staying present in the moment, planning for the future, and adapting with courage when things don't go as expected. And if we can learn to do that, not just as individuals, but as a society, and even in the AI we create, we might just be able to build a world that works better for everyone. The only question is, are we ready to rethink how we think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please share, like, and subscribe.